Hi guys, welcome to my channel, Sarah Marie's Art. I am Sarah Marie and we're gonna try and make some art today. Well, I mean today, it's probably gonna take like me a couple of days, but for you guys it'll be like, I don't know, a few minutes. This is my current sketchbook. I've only used like a little bit of it, you know. That's a crochet pattern, so not that, but like a little bit of it. So this is the back of something. I'll have to cover that up at some point. We don't talk about that. This is my sketchbook. I think what I want to do is do like a big like water like effect on the background and then put little like floaties on top of them because like it's summer and that's fun, and like it's a little bit of mindless for like the water part, but then like the floaties, you know, it takes a little bit more thinking I guess on my end. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get started with that. The first thing I'm gonna do is tape off the edges. Ooh, there we go. Alright, so the first thing I'm gonna do is tape off my edges. I don't know that I want a border quite as thick as this washi tape, but I'm going to try and do like half the width of it. I think that's kind of what I'm going to go for here. This is not an exact science. I am just guessing to the best of my ability, which may or may not be very good. I don't know yet, we'll find out. We honestly won't find out until the end. So there's that. Gotta do the long edge. Luckily this washi tape, it's from Amazon. I got it as a gift like maybe a year or so ago. It's kind of thin, which is nice because I can see through it. So then I know where I'm at. I just painted my nails right before I did this, which was probably a bad idea, but I did it anyhow. So ignore the fact that I'm messing up my nails while I do this. We don't have to talk about that. I keep tapping my nails together right here when I rip it. But it's fine. Everything's fine. This is gonna be trickier because I can't quite see where the dotted line is. I mean, I can, just not well. But we're just gonna go in with confidence, and if it turns out bad, at least we did it bad confidently. Boom. So that's the end of that. I have thrown my washi tape in the corner with the crochet pattern. As a disclaimer, there's 0% of what I do that is an official technique. This is all just things I've learned from the internet and probably learned them poorly. So this is my very beat up watercolor palette, I guess, whatever you call it. I don't know. I'm too lazy to go get an actual like glass for water because I'm just going to use one color from here. So I think I'm just gonna spray the paper and then do a wet on wet technique like that. This is not an official technique. This is just me messing around basically, trying to see what I end up with. Alright. Now we're just going in. This is not an official technique at all. I don't even know if this brush is going to fit in this bottle. Oh, it does. Nice. Yay me. Alright. That's a good amount of paint. Feel like I may want to spray this more in a second. Who knows? There are no knowns here, just chaos, basically. JK, there's a lot of water on this page. But that's okay. because that's how I need it. It's how I need it to be. I lied. This is coming off again. The page is already warping because this is mixed media paper, not watercolor paper, but I think this is the only layer of watercolor I'm going to do, at least directly on this page, so I'm going to just flatten it out later. I feel like if you let the sketchbook sit long enough, it'll like eventually go back to where it's supposed to be. It'll eventually flatten out. Or it won't, who knows. I will find out eventually. Maybe I'll share that with all of you. I just keep adding pigment, I mean watercolor obviously, but like pigment onto the page because I expected it to be a little darker and then it wasn't, but I think that was because I sprayed the whole page with water first. So that's an oopsie on my part, but we're getting there. I'm trusting the process. Luckily I'm not like trying to contain the watercolors, that's what the washi tape is for. Because I'm not very good at that. That is very tricky. But this, all I gotta do is make it darker. Like, I can handle that, you know? I don't know. Alright. I'm gonna let this dry before we destroy it anymore. I'm gonna go wash my brush, and then, we'll see how the paper's looking. I might do a wash of the same color over top of it once it's totally dry. But then we're ready to start moving on with the little water patterns, because this makes sense for water, obviously. Alright, I'm switching to voiceover now. The next step in this process is pretty repetitive, and no one needs to sit here and watch me draw circles and talk for the next 45 minutes, so we're gonna speed things up a bit. I actually started off with like squares, not like circles or ovals. They're not like exactly squares, they're kind of like these blob squares, and I don't know why I'm doing that. I don't know why I thought I needed these. Eventually you'll see that I realize the squares are not really the right shape for water, which is fluid and not a corner-like substance. So I eventually realized that the squares are not where it's at and start making ovals. Thank goodness. If you're going to do it yourself, just start with the ovals. Don't start with these weird square things and try to carve them out like I did later. The marker I'm using is a Tombow brush pen, and I picked this color because it's darker than the watercolor background. That's not an official ruler technique, that's just what I thought would look good, and the background was kind of on the lighter side already, so I just wanted something that would pop off the page a little and give some contrast. Plus, I'm going over this with some white later, so I need a little bit of saturation here. So I ended up not filming me drawing all the circles because that would have been such a long clip. Once I finally got all my circles done, I went ahead and just filled in the spaces between the circles. So I'm not sure why I decided to film like this next day thing where I'm opening the sketchbook, because I literally filmed this over 3 weeks, and it was probably several days between the last time I started working on this in this drawing session, but nonetheless, here we are. Apparently filling in the spaces in like 3 circles was enough for me that day because I took a pause, but I came back to it and I'm just filling everything in. This part is pretty mindless, which I really enjoy because I can just sit back, watch some trash TV, and give my brain a break while also still being productive, you know? This is also just like fun because it's like when you're like in elementary school and you get like a box of crayons and you just get told to color. You don't have to worry about anything and you're just coloring, you know? It's like the adult version of that. Now, I am a fan of adult coloring books. I like the bold and easy ones. I mean, I like the more detailed ones too. I went through like a big phase with those, so I do like those ones. But more recently, I've seen the bold and easy style on TikTok, and you know how you get influenced. And I just got one for my birthday, and it's really fun. I use the alcohol markers for that. They're kind of tricky to get like one big area that's just solid without the line. You know, like the line whenever you're coloring and you don't go over the alcohol ink fast enough and you just get like that line. It's really hard to get rid of. I'm not super great at it yet, but I'm learning. It's not really a problem with this art project though, because with the water it's just flowy and it's moving, so it doesn't have to be perfectly smooth, I don't think, because of all of the like ripples, I guess, I'm trying to get in the water. And that's also why I went with a water-based marker here. So I think I hopped around a bit with the spots that I color. I get a little bit with the flow, and then I get bored and I hop around. There's no rhyme or reason to that. It's just I see a space and I'm like, man, that space would be fun to color. So then I hop to that space, and then sometimes I want to see just the progression of like, oh, I'll keep going in this direction and then I can feel like I've completed something. And so sometimes it's like wanting to see the progression, and then sometimes I just want to color the space that will feel good to me like in that moment. So I finally finished those silly blue circles, and then I switched to the white ones. Now, I feel like the white ones go faster because, like, when I'm doing the blue circles, I'm still trying to define which spaces are bigger and which ones are smaller. But when I go over with the white gel pen, like, I'm not tracing them exactly, but, like, the vibes of the spaces are already there, like, the water vibes, you know? So I can just kind of go over it, and it doesn't take as long because those big and little spaces are already defined for me. I just have to, like, go over them. So the pen I'm working with, it's one of those Jelly Roll pens, and I struggled a bit with this one just because I've probably had it for, like, 3 or 4 years, and it's probably 2/3 of the way empty. But it's not completely empty, so I refuse to throw it away. It'll work for like 3 strokes, and then I have to try and get it to work again by like putting my spit on it or rolling it around on a piece of paper, like brand new piece of paper, where I can just scribble on it and get it going again. So I'm not giving up on this one though. I'm gonna keep trying, and eventually I give up like temporarily on this pen, and I went and found one of my other pens that actually works. This is not one of those pens yet, but I eventually want to make some progress. So this is a temporary giving up, and I will get this pen completely used up. It's probably just going to take a while and a lot of patience. I also apologize if it doesn't look like I'm doing anything right now. I don't think the white showed up on camera as well as like the blue did. The dark blue like pops. It's like, oh, I'm obviously doing something, and the white is just kind of like, am I doing something? I don't know. It looks super clear for the moment, but once, like, you know, it all gets done, then it definitely looks a little more like water, even if it's not super obvious at the moment. Now, at some point, I decided to go to the library to work because the library is a wonderful place and they have lots of books and resources, and I love my local library, so 10 out of 10, highly recommend it. If you haven't been to yours in a while, go check it out. They have a lot of fun stuff for free, which is the best part. But sometimes I like to just go and sit there because it's kind of peaceful. I mean, my library is not like you have to be super quiet library, like people talk and whatever, but I don't know, you can just go by yourself and sit at one of their desks and work, and it's just a peaceful little thing to do. So I apologize for the fact that I'm working kind of upside down compared to you. That's the only not awkward way I could set up my camera, so that's what I did when I was there. All right, now that we've finished the water, it's time for the floaties part of the floaties in water. I went ahead and drew these off camera because I'm not super confident in my drawing skills, and I just wanted to be able to make the 580,000 mistakes I was going to make without anybody watching me and judging me. So I went ahead and did those off camera, and I just used this long strip of mixed media paper because we're going to cut them out later, so it doesn't really matter what paper it's on. So then I go ahead, and I did not have my kneaded eraser, which I should have brought with me, but I didn't. So I just took a regular eraser and kind of went over the sketches a little bit to just kind of remove some of the graphite. So now I'm just going to outline all of these, and then we're going to color them in, and eventually I'll cut them out and we'll glue them on, and then we're going to have a beautiful piece of artwork in my sketchbook. Now, I believe the fine liner I was using here was a 0.1 millimeter fine liner. I think it was just an Art Alternatives brand one. So I use the thin one because I like trying to get all the little details, and I feel like if I make a mistake, it's on a smaller scale, so I can go back and just not scratch it out necessarily, but make the lines thicker and cover it up later. My hand actually is super shaky, so I end up going kind of back over this and making the lines kind of thicker in some spots and leaving them kind of thin in other spots, so that way it kind of gives it this hand drawn-ish homemade feel, but really I just do that to cover up the fact that my hand is super shaky. I also would like to talk about Pinterest for a minute because the floaties that I drew here were all pictures from Pinterest that I found of real life floaties, and then I just liked them and thought I could draw them, so I decided to add them to my artwork here. But honestly, half of the ones here, definitely the pineapple one, but I think maybe the flamingo one too, maybe, they weren't even pictures of actual floaties. They were, but they were just Amazon advertisements or something for the floaties. And they were cute and it got the job done here. But I feel my Pinterest feed anymore, there's more ads than there are actual pins, and it's so frustrating trying to pin something that's cute to one of my boards, and then I press my finger down on it and it immediately takes me to another website. I'm I didn't want to go to this website, I just wanted to use this for inspiration. But no, instead, I get Amazon. Anyhow, at this point, I switched to the thicker fine liner, at least for the floaties that I have already outlined, because like I mentioned earlier about how my hand is super shaky, and I'm not super great at drawing straight lines or lines that aren't shaky. I just kind of went over some of the shaky parts, or just parts that I wanted to look a little thicker, kind of in a stylistic decision, I suppose. So that's what I'm doing here. I just went over some areas with a thicker one to cover up how shaky my hand is, and then adding just some details to the watermelon just to make it, look like a floaty, those little ruffle bumpy edges where the seams are, when you sit on it and it kind of ruffles in. That's kind of the vibe that I'm going for here. So then I switch back to the thinner liner to add little details like that. Now that the outline is done, it is time to add some color to these floaties. So I have 2 of these 6 packs of the Tombow markers. It's the same like type of marker I was using earlier. I think the blue is actually from this pack that I just showed here. This one, I think it's called like the tropical pack, or like it's not called exactly that, but like something similar. So I have this like more tropical pack, and then I also have this pastels pack, and I feel like the tropical pack lends really well to the summer stuff. So I use mostly the tropical ones here, but I feel like the pastels add like a little bit more detail in certain places, like give me a little bit more depth. So I do end up using both packs of markers. Now there's some basic colors that these floaties like obviously are, like the red, white, and blue popsicle obviously has to be red, white, and blue. And so I'm going to color the red and the blue, but I'm going to leave the white be because like I'm not trying to ruin the image of the red, white, and blue popsicle here. That would be a crime because they're so good. So I'm not doing anything like too fancy with the coloring here. It's all just, making everything the colors that I know them to be, at least. So we're keeping the popsicle, normal. The watermelon is going to be, green, and I think I used red or a very dark pink, normal watermelon-y stuff. So the yellow here actually is where the pastel pack came in major handy, because there was not a yellow in the tropical one. So it's a little bit light because it is pastel, so I think I ended up doing like 2 layers of this, but once I did the second layer, like it was definitely yellow enough to say like, hi, I'm a pineapple. Now the other thing, going back to the whole like water-based versus alcohol-based marker, I used the water-based ones here because I have a lot of these colors in alcohol markers too, but like when you have a floaty, I mean, the plastic of the floaty is smooth, but you have all those textures, and I'm not using like, it's not over a large surface area, and the mixed media paper takes the water-based markers pretty well. So I just went ahead and used the water-based ones instead of the alcohol ones, because there are like when you sit on the floaty, or just how the floaty is, like where all of its seams are, there's like little bumps and stuff. So I didn't think everything needed to be perfectly smooth here, although I do think these markers did a good job of giving me a generally smooth thing. I definitely like where the little ruffles are, the seams are, like went over it to make some things darker to give it a little bit more of that like bumpy effect in the certain spots. Now I did make what I feel like was a mistake here with the flamingo, and it got corrected later on, but I definitely should have started with the pastel pink and not the tropical pink, because the tropical pink was a little bit darker than I expected, and then it was hard to layer on top. Like I would just layer on top, and it was just not giving me like those darker areas that I wanted with all of the layers. So I eventually broke down and got an alcohol marker and went over it because I had more colors of that, and I just needed it to get a little bit darker in some places, give me some depth, So at this point, I'm pretty much just going back in with the fine liner and the gel pen. I want to try and get some like with the gel pen, I want to get some highlights, like when the sun would reach down, when the sun would shine down and the light would reflect back. The gel pen is super good for this. I did not try and use that one that's not working super great. I kind of just skipped to the one that I know is going to work, just because I was a little bit antsy to like get these cut out and like get moving with this project. But I also used the fine liner just to add like some little extra details. I wanted some of the, like on the pineapple, the texture on the pineapple, I wanted that to be a little bit more defined. So I kind of went in. It's hard to tell on the pineapple that I even really did anything, but when you see it like completed, it's like, oh, that makes sense. I just wanted to give it a little bit more texture in kind of a subtle way. So gel pen and fine liner to the rescue. Now that all of the rafts are colored in, it is time to rip this baby off the notepad and cut them out. So this was a little hard because the scissors I had were not the sharpest, so I was getting just like a little bit of, I don't know if I want to call it like fringe or like fuzzies around the rafts that I was cutting out, but I did my best. I tried to like go back and like cut them at an angle a little bit afterwards to try and get some of that fuzziness off, because I do not want to see that in my final product. But in general, the first two weren't bad. The watermelon and the popsicle were pretty straightforward. The flamingo and the pineapple posed a few more challenges just because the flamingo's neck is like so thin, and I had to cut the hole out of the pineapple, and like I don't have an X-Acto knife. I mean, I should get one. I just didn't. So trying to go in like with the scissors in the middle of this pineapple in this thick paper was not the easiest, but we got there eventually. For this flamingo, I did kind of have to like go in and cut out little sections at a time because like the paper was just getting in the way of itself, if that makes any sense. There were just a lot of little details to the flamingo, but I would not have done it any other way because honestly, if you're gonna have a pool party, you need a giant flamingo float. It's kind of a necessity. I also want to apologize for the fact that this isn't like totally in focus. I completely underestimated the challenge that it would be to cut out a flamingo with children's scissors and thick paper and do it in front of a camera, also with the other stuff in the background that ended up being in focus. So now that I have everything cut out, I do apologize. I took the washi tape off camera. I ended up doing a whole other like drawing on the back of this page, and the washi tape just had to come off for that. So sorry for making everyone lose the opportunity to see a good tape peel, but it was pretty good, just trust me. I also went and just did a little fishy with a bow off camera because I thought it would be nice to have a fish. You know, it's the water, it's fish, the fish has a bow. It was pretty fun. So now we're to the point where we're just gluing these bad boys on. I kind of did like a general idea of how I wanted to arrange them, and then once I kind of had a general idea of where I wanted everything to go, I just glued them on. Everything didn't end up exactly in the spot where I put them, but it was like pretty close. I just have this craft glue, it's Elmer's, and that's what I used. I just glued these little guys on, and that's the completed sketchbook page. So thank you all for watching on this really exciting journey of me mostly drawing circles. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!